Hey, what's going on YouTube? Dark Matter Editing here for another YouTube tutorial. This time around, we're going to be discussing render settings. Now, render settings is a pretty controversial topic, but the good thing about it is there's a lot of room for discussion as far as what's going to be the best. Now, when you're rendering a video, that's when you're done with your project and you're ready to submit it online or to show your friends or just to save it on your computer. Whatever the case, 90% of people are probably going to upload it on their favorite video streaming platform like YouTube. So a lot of my videos are going to be gauged towards YouTube since that's where I upload these tutorials. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead at the top left and we're going to hit File and we're going to go ahead and hit Render As. Now, before you go into the render screen, I just want to show you one thing. Make sure that you've selected the entire area that you want to render out. So let me go ahead and drag a gradient in just to kind of show you, just a random. You'll notice that this selection isn't including that gradient. Now, so if that selection is not there, it won't render it all together. So I'm going to drag this over, and we're going to move this little selection bar like that. So now, when I go to Render As, you're going to get the entire scope of your work versus just that one little segment. But it's good to know both because let's say you want to do a test. Let's say you have like a 4-minute video, but you need to know if it looks good. You can just take a little slice out of your video and then hit the Render As button. Not to go too far ahead, but if you go down to this Render Options button, you'll notice that this button's checked by default. Render Loop Region Only. And that little yellow meter is your loop region. Okay, so now that we've gotten those kind of nuances out of the way, we're going to go ahead and select our format. Now, you can download formats online or codecs, whatever you want to call them. But I like to use this one here where it says Magix AVC MP4. It's an MP4 file format. Now, there's a whole bunch of different formats. You have MP3. This is just for like audio only. You have main concept. I think there's some here for Apple too. If you like, maybe you have to download it. Well, maybe this is it here. I'm not sure. I'm not an Apple user, but point is, you have different selections based on the content you're producing. The most popular, I think, as far as I know, is Windows Media Video 11, and then this Magix AVC. There's really no right or wrong answer. It's preference, but there are certain objective facts. Most people really care about the quality of the video at the end of the day. So that's why I tend to lean towards this particular one. So with that being said, we're going to go here on the right. Here are your templates. There's some that are installed by default when you install Vegas. I record at 4K personally, so I select this top one. And you'll notice that it doesn't say 60 FPS, it says 59.94. It's usually close enough. It's not going to make a huge difference. But if you're OCD like me, you're probably going to type in 60 later. So the first thing we're going to do is hit this Customize Template. And what we're going to do is drop down to where it says Frame Size. And you'll notice that there's 1080p, you have 720p. I always like to hit this Custom, and then you can type in what you want it to output at. So for me, it's 4K, so this is the native 4K size. I don't recommend hitting this Allow Source to adjust frame size because you want to have a consistent frame size throughout your whole video. You don't want it to vary. It just doesn't look good that way. So just kind of leave that unchecked. But if you have like a 1080p clip here, and you have a 4K clip here, just choose the largest one in my opinion. You get into other issues like aspect ratio. I'm not going to kind of get into that right now, but I would just pick a size and go with it. Profile, I like high. Frame rate, again, I'm going to type in 60. I'm going to skip this Allow Source to adjust. Field order, none. Pixel aspect ratio, 99.9% of the time, it's always going to be 1. Reference frames, you could fiddle with this. I don't recommend it. I just leave it on 2, which is the default. Now, this is the part where you may want to do a little bit of fiddling, your bitrate. So you can either choose constant or you can choose variable. Your bitrate is established based on your source content. Like I use NVIDIA Recorder, and you can record video game footage. You could record the desktop, which is what I'm doing in this tutorial here. And I always choose 50 million bitrate. So I could get away with doing constant. I myself, I like to leave a little bit of wiggle room in case something weird happened, because a lot of these softwares are not perfect. So I'm actually going to change this. Well, 40 is good there, but I'm going to change this one here to 60 at the top. And then that way I have a little bit of wiggle room right in the middle of 50 million. I always check 2-pass as well. I like as best quality as I can possibly get. So this will render the video twice, once in total, but it does like a second pass through when you're, so it basically doubles the rendering time, but also can have an influence on having better quality. Oh, and up here, leave that deblocking filter unchecked. It's not really that necessary. Slices, defaults 4, that's fine. This encode method here, if you have an NVIDIA graphics card, I do recommend this NV encoder. It'll speed up the render times enormously. Don't quote me on this, but I think this one uses your CPU to render, which can be nice, but because video content's kind of graphical in nature, if you have a good graphics card, you might as well just try this. But if you have any glitches or something when you're trying to render it out, you can always switch these two around, and I find that one of these two should work. But let's assume best case scenario. Go with NVIDIA. This probably won't be here too if you have an AMD graphics card. So you may, I don't know if there's one specific for AMD, but you know, you'll cross that bridge when you get there. Preset, we're going to go with high quality. I don't recommend lossless. It's just going to increase the file size. It's usually not necessary, but you can kind of choose the one that you want here. And then rendering mode, we have VBR, and you just want to match it with what you have here. So I did variable bitrate. You could do high quality too, but you could actually experiment to see which one you like better. Constant bitrate, high quality. So you can, this will affect the selection box here. So if you just want it to be constant and you trust the system, then just go with the 50. That's fine. All right, that pretty much handles it there. If you understand all this based on this tutorial, that should get you 90% of the way. You could go to the audio tab. I render all my videos with 48,000 hertz at 192,000 bitrate. You can right click on your file and then go to properties on your desktop and figure out what the native bitrate is of your file. And then you can kind of match it up or downscale it. So if your file is 320, you could always render out in 320, or you could just pick a different one. I don't recommend going below like 128 or 96, but again, match it up with your content as best you can. Doesn't hurt to go down, but you don't want to render it in 512 if it's only a 64,000 file. All right, last but not least, rendering quality. That's the 4th tab. We're going to click on best. Leave the 3D mode alone. Color space, leave it on default. And then color range, this is kind of more for HDR type people. In HDR, you'd probably want to do full. But if you're just recording like me, just the standard is just going to be limited. Hit OK. And then you can name your file down here. So tutorial video 2 is what I'm going to end up calling this one. And then you can pick your file location there where you want it to save with the browse button. And then you hit render. And then you just wait. It will render out, and then you're all done. And that finishes up for today's tutorial. And I'll see you guys on the next one.